Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I am your host Faisal Raza Khan and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, Pakistan's decisive response during Marka-e-Haq and Operation Bunyan-e-Mursus that had literally shattered India's power projection, hegemonic designs, Akhand Bharat mantra, but Modi regime still fueling war hysteria through jingoistic statements, massive defense procurements, military exercises along Pakistani border and at line of control. Then, of course, staged false flag operations, cross line of control, terrorism allegations, military exercises, aggressive postures, atrocities and genocide going on in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And obviously, there are lots of missile tests from the last at least 2 to 3 weeks. This all suggests that how Modi regime, rather controlling its internal unrest, going away from the occupied territory of Kashmir, ending the genocide, human rights violations, war crimes and ethnic cleansing, and stopping the different sites of setbacks, the regional and global setbacks to India. Rather looking inward, India is continuously having hegemonic designs to push South Asia into another chaos and crisis. To talk on this very important aspect of Pakistan's national security, we have in our studios Dr. Awais Bin Wasi. He is the Indian affairs expert. Thank you very much, sir, for your presence here. And Dr. Tauqeer Sargana. He is assistant professor at the IR department, the International Relations Department at the International Islamic University, Islamabad. Thank you very much, Dr. Sargana, for your presence here. And online joining us, Colonel Retired Mohammed Abid Latif Sindhu. He is the strategic affairs analyst. Thank you very much, Colonel Sahab, for your presence online. My first question to you, Awais Bin Wasi sahab, that Modi regime repeatedly threatened Pakistan, reviving failed Operation Sindhu, linking nuclear options, and in this August, 15th of August speech, even criticizing the Indus Water Treaty as the river that irrigating enemies' land. What does this aggressive posture actually mean for Pakistan's security and the water future? Would India exploiting water to be the next flashpoint?
Okay, thank you so much for having me and to discuss this significant subject. The threats coming from New Delhi, these are not new. Since the creation of Pakistan, we have seen that India's involvement in in the past, that we see that these threats translated into the full-fledged war, and in all the wars, unfortunately, it was India that who initiated the war, whether it is 1965 or 1971 or later on, we see. So that threat is the persistent pattern and behavior and attitude of New Delhi, and we see the intensification since Modi assumed power in 2014, and after 2015 we see this consistent pattern. And Prime Minister Modi talked about to kill or to attack people, Pakistan within their own homes, and they also, Indian leadership, they were consistently talking about that attacking Gilgit-Baltistan and Azad Jammu and Kashmir. So I think that there is a consistent pattern, and we also saw that they have also exploited the terrorist incidents, whether it is Pulwama or Uri or Pathankot, or all these incidents they have exploited and capitalized for their domestic political objectives, and they are doing now. As recently, after this Operation Sindhu, their embarrassing failure and defeat, it is difficult for them to digest this failure, and they are trying to sell this narrative within India that we are the winners. But internationally, you have seen that international players, United States and others, that they have multiple times recurrently that they have mentioned that they played a significant role in de-escalation and the ceasefire, but India is not going to accept. As far as the water, the threat with regard to water is concerned, this is very significant, and Pakistan has categorically mentioned that this abeyance or this suspension is not less than an act of war by India, and this suspension or this abeyance, it violates all the established principles of international law, all the principles of Indus Waters Treaty, and Pakistan, for Pakistan, it is just like a lifeline, because our GDP, almost 25% GDP depends upon it. 37 our workforce employment depends upon Indus water. You know, there are a lot of stakes Pakistan has with regard to Indus Waters Treaty. So I think that this consistent pattern of threatening and suspension of Indus Water Treaty could again trigger another such conflict.
Your point well taken, Awais. Dr. Tauqeer, how did Pakistan's lethal response in Marka-e-Haq and Operation Bunyaan-e-Mursus actually shattered India's self-projected power image, deepen Modi's regime's insecurity, particularly political insecurity, and fuel new Kashmir-linked tensions actually? While Modi now resorts to the fresh cross line of control terrorism allegations, the military drills and air exercises near Pakistani borders and even at the right line of control, in its growing hysteria, the war hysteria towards Pakistan, what it suggests actually?
Thank you very much for Faisal for having me. Faisal, Indian frustration is heading towards chaos. Their confidence is not only shattering, but their policy postures within and outside, at the global stage, are not helping India to manifest a kind of narrative which can help them to sustain as a successful bidder of insecurity or instability in South Asia. Whereas we all know that from the very inception of India and Pakistan in South Asia, the Indian policies, politics and global relations have always targeted instability, insecurity in a way that isolates Pakistan and allows New Delhi a kind of room or space where they can justify their jingoism, where they can justify their extremism, and they can justify their, or they can externalize their internal issues. And which is why that mindset of India, we have seen they wanted to manifest once again during the Operation Sindhu. And Pakistan's calibrated retaliation under the Marka-e-Haq military operation, as well as Bunyaan-e-Mursus, punctured India's self-image. And that is why India has been punished through a credible deterrence posturing of Pakistan. It not only imposed costs visible inside India, but also isolated India from its traditional superior diplomatic interaction with the rest of the world. Now, no responsible actor in the international community is able to justify India's belligerent and jingoistic and extremist point of view towards the stability and securitization of South Asia, which is why they are trying to create a kind of new normal, not in terms of military operation, but in terms of propaganda, in terms of narrative setting. That is the, again a weak foreign policy and national politics outlook of India right now as we speak, that the war they lost on the battlefield are trying to win in the through disinformation and misinformation. So the India's so-called claim that we intercepted everything line was undercut by real world effects. We know that there were blackouts, there were NOTAMs issued, there disrupted airspace during the operation did not allow them to come up and cherish the warfare domain in terms of their success. So India as a whole is going through a dilemma of their strategic culture and their strategic thought, which is fascinating in terms of theory, in terms of literature, but when it comes to ground, India has been not able to apply those glorious manifestations that they have been spreading around the world, which again credit goes to Pakistan's armed forces as well as the political and social fabric of the Pakistani nation, which almost contained Indian intervention into these spaces as well.
Definitely, because lies don't have ground. So
Yes.
that's what is practically we can see what the India is doing right now and how it is actually evolving now.
Very true, sir.
Colonel Abid, after Pakistan announced its army rocket force, Modi rushed to declare the 2035 mission Sudarshan Chakra, claiming parity with the Israel's Iron Dome. Is this a genuine defense planning or a panicked reaction actually exposing India's insecurity over Pakistan's advancing missile capabilities?
Thank you for taking me for this. I think as recently, just now it was mentioned about the strategic culture. I think there is a collapse of Indian strategic culture, because the strategic culture of every nation is actually the pinnacle from where its national policy, its security policy, and it's everything. It's even economic policy. It emerges, and that is actually the playbook through which the nations and the states they behave. So a state which was actually came into being as a secular state on democratic principles, and now it has turned itself into a very extreme right Hinduvata type of a concept and ideology. I think that is the thing which is actually making them imbalanced in this international security architecture. On one side, they were trying to be part of the American camp, but they are not being useful to that camp as well. That is the reason that Trump, making one pretext and the other is now trying to belittle them internationally. And on the other hand, as being part of the global south, even then they are not adjusting themselves with China, with Russia, with Pakistan, and the regional country trying to be an hegemon. Now, coming over to this Sundara Chakra, this is basically Vishnu's weapon, a sort of a boomerang which he used to throw and get his enemy, decimated, and then the chakra would come back to him. Actually, India is trying to revamp the complete structure of its army. First of all, they are at loggerheads with their aircraft, that is Tejas. They are not having the engines from USA, and they're not even able to make it indigenously. And then there's their aircraft AMCA, that is medium combat aircraft. It is also a far cry from realization, and so many other things actually. And this Marka-Haq actually exposed their scaffold which they have built, that they're a huge army. There are air force which can dominate Pakistan Air Force and have a very elongated superiority. That has all come to I would say to a place where they are so badly exposed that now their every statement, their maneuvers, their efforts, everything is actually to redeem their lost, I would say, the self-respect and their glory, and that what they have already falsely made. This Iron Dome type of a concept, actually, it is ineffective as far as the response from Pakistani side is concerned, because as already we have already announced a rocket force which is going to bridge that gap which was there between the strategic weapon and the tactical weapons. And so now we are going to have 3 layers of missiles, different type of layers, in which first of all is our artillery and long-range artillery, and the artillery with missiles like Fateh 1 and Fateh 2. Then we have a middle range which this rocket force will cover, and then we will be having the strategic missiles which have the longer range. So with this, their Iron Dome and things like this, the concept of Agnipath, the concept of Viksit Bharat, I think it's just an effort, or I would say a futile exercise redeem and regain their lost
Colonel Sahab, in the name of military exercises, India massing troops near the Pakistani border, even at the line of control, shifting air squadrons, even investing in the Israeli missiles and the space surveillance, while Pakistan developing this rocket force, having most latest drone strength developed and procured supersonic and most probably the hypersonic missiles as well. Has New Delhi fallen into the illusion of regional hegemony despite Islamabad's strengthening its deterrence?
I think that their concept of hegemony, or their belief that they can apply that the principle of hegemony in this region, and particularly in Pakistan, has long gone, especially after this Marka-e-Haq. And this effort, amassing aircrafts on air bases near to their western border, or amassing troops on ground on LOC or working boundary, is actually, I think, their normal augmentation, because the corps deployed on us, adjacent to our border, that is the 15th Corps, 16th Corps, and then their 17th Corps, 14th Corps, and then the reserves of 1 Corps and 21 Corps. Actually, these are at their own places. These augmentations are, I think, their normal maneuvers, their normal moves which they are taking out, or they are trying to, make, or at least to placate their own people, that they are well prepared. And as they have already said so many times, Modi Sahab has also said that Operation Sindhu is just paused. It has not stopped. So I think to vindicate that statement, they are doing it. Otherwise, there is nothing to be worried on this. Pakistan and the armed forces are quite vigilant. And if any other misadventure, God forbid, if they want to take, or if they take, so that will be also blunted.
Your point well taken, Dr. Tauqeer. Is Pakistan spending air power, rocket force, electronic warfare edge, missile technology and the layered air defense now providing credible conventional options and multiplying the steps in escalation ladder even to neutralize India at any stage in future without crossing the nuclear threshold, even against the nuclear capable Agni 5 bunker buster which they are trying to develop? That is actually an illusion or a false no first use posturing, which India recently tested as well, that as a categorization of intermediate ballistic missile, what they say, but most of the world experts say that it's an ICBM. So how do you think about that, what India want through this whole posturing right now?
Faisal, India's whole posture is again a kind of creating a conception within the information domain, where they want to create a kind of credibility for the prospective engagement with Pakistan, which shows their elusive pressure that they are receiving from their internal politics or political stakeholders. This again is complemented when we look Indian posturing as a credible military state. The international community is also not willing to accept the notion of military superiority of India within South Asia. So within that bracket, they want to come forward to create a kind of engagement for the discussion that India is still capable of dealing the overall scenario lower than within the conventional ladder, as well as within the domain of nuclear escalation ladder by using no first use option. So we have to see that Pakistan's response is different than the Indian speculative or elusive narrative around it. Pakistan's raising a rocket force is to basically institutionalize long-range precision fires alongside the missile arm. This is about volume, responsiveness, and credible non-nuclear punishment options against India. And Pakistan, over the period of time, if we see closely, Pakistan has deliberately built out a conventional escalation ladder which includes long-range, precision rockets, standoff cruise missiles.
Because when the rocket force would be there, you have at least you are actually increasing or expanding your options within the conventional weapon use.
Yeah.
So that is basically the theme.
Exactly. And see, the war leading towards breakup of nuclear threshold is a catastrophe, which again during the operation, Operation Sindhu, we have noticed that the US President Donald Trump categorically multiple times have told the international community that it was a breaking point where US intervention helped stabilize South Asia. And Pakistan not only respect American mediation to de-escalate the situation because of the Indian madness towards warfare domain was totally based on miscalculations. They were based on false flag narratives.
Yes.
There was nothing reality behind it. So that international response again provides
most of them were
credibility.
staged actually.
Most of them were
Yes,
staged.
no doubt about
and which
that.
is why when we see Agni 5 bunker buster, so-called, elusive,
Yes.
statements coming from India, they again, provides a testimony that India is in frustration. They don't have a capability. The nuclear missile is going to come forward to deal with the threshold in a conventional form? Obviously not. And again, the no first use ambiguous positioning we have seen in 2019. Before 2019, they have said they are going to change the policy, but Pakistan's credible punishment to India under the deterrence framework remain sustained.
Definitely, you are absolutely right. But we have already done a program on that,
Very
MD5 and the bunker buster. But
Exactly.
That is an illusion which is very dangerous.
Very
really,
dangerous.
particularly for the region. Dr. Awais, Modi regime, rooted in Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh's extremist mindset and terrorist mindsets, has actually staged false flag before elections. This is the set point agenda, but every time it happens the same, and this cycle is repeated. Like Uri in 2016, we have that was Pulwama in 2019, and now Pahalgam. With reports of thinking and preparing for another misadventure even after the failed Operation Sindhu, should Pakistan brace for another stage false flag operation from Modi and Modi's political survival?
Yes, it cannot be termed out of question as far as India's history is concerned, India's posturing towards Pakistan is concerned, and India's direct involvement, as we discussed earlier, in the dismemberment of the country and various sabotage operations which India had launched and continuously doing it. So that thing or that threat
and still whatever is happening in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan,
exactly, that is imminent,
yes,
and that cannot be brushed aside. But we need to understand, specifically if we see some of the incident, for example, this Pulwama incident. So Pulwama incident, this narrative which India tried to sell, that was debunked, that was demystified by their own governor, Satyapal Malik, that this incident was basically, that was carried out or for some political mileage.
And just
that was the election.
The most mysterious death of him.
Exactly, exactly, and that was the political, in the election campaign that they have exploited. And in the recent Lok Sabha election concluded, in the later phases, when they were saying that they were unable to whip up the Hindi belt or the Hindutva vote bank, so they again started mentioning Pakistan, so that they would be they would manage to get that vote bank that is
just for milking those votes.
Exactly,
they are doing it, really.
Exactly. And about the threat of Pakistan bracing for that, so I think that Pakistan must be vigilant of that, and the way that Pakistan is diplomatically is advancing, that is quite successful, and that should be continued, so that any misadventure could be neutralized, and the international community must be apprised, keeping in view India's track record. In the recent, when Pakistan offered for independent and credible investigation, international organizations and the world capitals, they tried their best to restrain India, not to attack Pakistan, not to do any misadventure, but disregarding all statements of international leaders and organizations, India intoxicating by hegemony and by these, jingoistic and war-frenzied ambitions, attacked another nuclear state. So it was just the responsible conduct of Pakistan that and international mediation that this would have been averted. Otherwise, it could have led to any catastrophic consequences.
Well said, Dr. Awais, well said. Colonel Abid, with India's large-scale air drills near line of control and working boundary and international border of Pakistan, Indian Army Chief warning of near war and Air Chief making baseless claims about downing Pakistani jets, rightly rejected by Islamabad. Does this actually reflect frustration for escalation rather attaining stability? What role should the global powers actually have to play in preventing Modi's possible but another staged and manufactured crisis in the region?
Yeah, actually, you are absolutely right that this is a manifestation of frustration. But as just right now, Dr. Saab was saying about that they have created a new normal and they have tried on their side to create a niche, laying low from the nuclear threshold and creating a new space where they can have a conventional superiority over Pakistan, which they could not even in the recent encounter which they had with us. So I think Pakistan has very beautifully is applying a new concept which is in security studies right now. It is very often mentioned, that is the strategic substitute. So creating a new rocket force, giving a quantified and quantifiable punishment to the selected military targets, and then preparing yourself for what in the domain, or even excelling or adding further domains in which your enemy or your protagonist is actually trying to develop on. I think that strategic substitute is a message to Indian policymakers that with strategic restraint, with Pakistan's option open to Pakistan, all type of options, Pakistan is also going to actually counter their concept of taking any adventurous track, which you have just mentioned, as if their even Air Force Chief has mentioned, the Army Chief has mentioned that this Operation Sindhu is still going on, and we are preparing and we are ready for another encounter. So as far as the regional developments are concerned, particularly the geopolitical developments, I think India now closing up a little with China, and then Modi Saab going to China for attending the SCO, and there maybe having a chance of some sort of a sideline meeting with Pakistani Prime Minister, and then the news and the voices coming out that there is going to be a CPAC 2 in which the regional cooperation will figure out much more than it was there in the previous one. So I think these developments and these changes are very abrupt. And I can foresee that since President Xi of China has already in 2020 has already even he went to India and told Modi that in confrontation and antagonizing each other is not the solution. India and China and the regional countries have to come closer to each other and enjoy the benefits of the Asian century through cooperation, through multilateralism, through minilateralism. And I think in this context, in the coming 5-10 days, and particularly the 31st of August and beyond, are very important. And some things or some changes might occur, which are going to be very...
You are absolutely right, because China wants to have multilateralism and wants to have cooperation, and China wants to take all the countries together, whosoever in the region, for development and prosperity. But unfortunately, it's not India's principle, because they are working on hegemon as a hegemon, and they are always disrupting the neighboring countries and always attacking the neighboring countries. They have the aggressive posture, unfortunately, based upon Hindutva extremism and terrorism, no doubt about that. So your point well taken. So Awais Bin Wasi Sahab, with Washington openly acknowledging its role in sustaining the fragile ceasefire between India and Pakistan, and even monitoring that ceasefire, because it was well elaborated by the US Foreign Secretary Marco Rubio in a television interview. Why is India actually denying US involvement and misleading its own people in parliament? Is New Delhi trying to mask diplomatic humiliation at Pakistan's successful engagement with America?
Yes, first of all, I think that India needs to look inward. India needs to take stock of its own external policy, that what compelled Washington to turn its back. Washington has been, India has been the strategic partner of United States, and there were different pacts signed. There were, people with Indian origin they were serving in there. But now, what compelled them to change their position? The reason is India's irresponsible conduct. And that irresponsible conduct, earlier that you had asked the question about the nuclear.
Yes.
So in Baba Institute, people were involved in theft of nuclear.
Yes.
You know, that was the
It's not only the Baba Institute. There is across India.
Yes.
There were lots of more than 50 incidents of uranium theft,
Exactly.
enriched material theft from the different nuclear sites and even research centers. So it is the regular feature. in
Exactly.
India.
And then second, before this assumption of Modi, ascension of Modi as the Prime Minister, India at least was considering this issue of Kashmir and the bilateral dispute between India and Pakistan. But since, ascension of Prime Minister Modi in 2014, they were starting saying that this is just internal law and order issue. And there is no scope, there is no role of any international mediation. So now with the mediation of international power broker, United States, and offered multiple times, not once, but I think more than 24 times, he has mentioned that I'm the one that who played a role in de-escalation, and I'm the one that who is ready and who is gave the office of the United States Oval Office for the mediation on Jammu and Kashmir. So I think that it's a great diplomatic setback for New Delhi, because they were not expecting. They were, it is the diplomatic fiasco for them, because they were claiming that this issue is the internal one, or at the larger scale that they were saying that the bilateral one. So with the third party mediation, it also indicates that India is not a responsible state, and perhaps India alone cannot resolve this issue. There must be some role of international community or international power brokers. They would come and they would play their role in de-escalation of that, and to counter it and to neutralize the consistent US position, especially after this ceasefire. I think that this the state of denial in which India is living, that constantly annoyed United States leadership. And we see that statements coming from US President Office and some other advisor on trade. He has also given quite harsh statement against India. I think this is because of India's conduct and India's behavior. India should look,
Definitely, they have to look inward, no doubt about that. Dr. Tauqeer, as US-Pakistan ties revive through counter-terrorism cooperation and the strategic engagement, India shows visible irritation. Does this expose New Delhi's insecurity over losing privileged status in Washington, or deeper anxiety about Pakistan's rising relevance in the US South Asia equation?
Faisal, this is a question, which actually defines the overall conduct of India when we just look at its history, its contemporary politics, and as well as we can predict its future course of action. We are using a word of illusion too much in this program today, but again, the illusion is a word which classically explains Indian contemporary political thought.
You can use the word illusion instead of India.
Yeah, instead of India. Even I always prefer to use the word of India regardless of Hindustan, because when I say Hindustan, it's about the RSS mindset, it's about the Hindutva philosophy and mentality, which does not have any space, just like fascism, just like
Nazism,
just
yes.
like any other extremist ideology.
Yes.
The Hindutva ideology also cannot be sustained in world politics where governance is based on international peace and harmony. So Hindustan does not qualify to be a kind of country or
Whatever
state.
is the RSS BJP policy is not actually equivalent to the UN Charter and to the international law.
Very
that
true.
is not compatible to
Very
that.
true.
So please go.
And that's why when we say United States of America, we have to see India. So the India has been occupied by this kind of mentality. But somehow when we see irritation, anxiety, insecurity embedded within Indian or Hindustani political culture, it's a kind of permanent tendency or a legacy which Indians and Hindustanis failed to come out. It's not for the first time they're doing like this, because right now India is being isolated. Right now India is not capable of presenting itself as a reliable partner for the United States, as rightly pointed out by Awais, that they are the strategic partner of the United States of America, and United States of America has done a lot to build
Actually,
Indian
world always prefer powerful. So power lies in Pakistan.
in Pakistan, which is the truth,
Definitely.
which is the truth. And I think
really.
even in the history, whenever Pakistan and United States of America engaged in any strategic, economic and political relations, Pakistan has always behaved responsible, reliable and to the mark.
We have run short of time,
Yes,
so we have more
Sir.
questions as
Sir,
well.
please.
Colonel Abid, very short, very brief, please. Reports suggest that India suspends the major US arms deals, P-8I, Poseidon aircraft, that is for Indian Navy, Stryker vehicles and the Javelin anti-tank missiles as well, and even cancelled Indian Defense Minister Rajnath Singh's US visit. Does this reflect the Washington's reality check with Delhi, especially compared to its warming ties with Pakistan?
Yeah, it does. But actually, what India did, it basically it's a reality check which they got. And on this Independence Day, President Modi has made the longest speech he has ever made at such occasions for about over 100 minutes. And there he emphasized that this is the time that India should go for indigenization, particularly in its aircraft, in its engines, in its military platforms, and making the tanks, artillery pieces, or whatever. And actually, that was, I would say, a reference or a conjecture to the Americans that since now they have signed so many military deals with them, particularly after 2006, once they had a civil nuclear cooperation agreement between the two countries. And then after they were collaborating and they had cooperation in so many areas of military engagement. So I think this is one, yes, of course, this is their moment of realization, which we call the Canada moment, which Canada also had once Trump was, Trump sent 2-3 idiomatic statements towards them. And again, India has also that realization moment. But the relationship of Pakistan and USA are redefining, as Dr. Saab was saying very rightly, that Pakistan has always behaved in a very rational way, in a very systematic way, and with a very sort of a mature strategic culture and strategic and political thought. Pakistan has manifested its diplomatic and international policy, which is the result of which we are seeing in causing up with the USA also, and even having even more better relations with China as well.
Yeah, definitely that has raised the stature of Pakistan, no doubt about that. Dr. Tauqeer, very brief, very short. With internal unrest, separatist movements, regional setbacks, defense and, delays, and even strained relation with the United States, despite India presumably categorized as a net security provider, as a result of its the Quad formed, do India's repeated military and arsenal expansion not expose its frustration and the collapse credibility?
Very true, Faisal. I would, if I have to give it a percentage, I will agree with your analysis and the question more than 1000%, because the kind of net security provider and the Quad pillar connotation that was associated with India as a stabilizing factor for this region, as well as a frontline runner for the strategic interests of the United States of America, they ring hollow. There is no credibility behind it right now, and the kind of Washington DC and New Delhi, the irritation, the friction which is going on at the moment, that indicates that the priority or India first policy now will be a distant dream for the future of India.
No doubt about that, Dr. Wasi. Indian Godi media, since last decades, thrives on war hysteria, spreading fake news, glorifying the false flag operations, fabricated information of terror camps, and glorifying the false surgical strikes even. And in the same case now, how much of this propaganda is the part of India's misinformation warfare to pave the way for future misadventure, and how can Pakistan actually have to counter it globally?
Exactly. The role of media, the Godi media, the mouthpiece of BJP government, that is self-evident even before this India-Pakistan conflict of May 2025. But after that, we have seen something which is unimaginable. The country which claims that the largest democracy in the world, and media, that is the fourth pillar of the modern state, the way the responsible mainstream media behaved, Aaj Tak TV channel, Now, Times of India, Barkadat, and many other people, they have shared the doctored, concocted and fabricated videos.
And if the few sane voices who are behaving responsibly, they are actually punishing them
exactly.
in India.
I think that they have left no stone unturned to push both these countries for nuclear confrontation.
Definitely,
instead of
yes.
asking them to be restrained.
Your point well taken. Thank you very much, Dr. Awais Bin Wasi, for being here in the studios. Thank you very much, Dr. Tauqeer. And we are thankful to you, Colonel Retired Abid Latif Sindhu sir, for your valuable comments as well. Viewers, you have listened to our panelists. No doubt that India is in deep frustration after the worst ever defeat in centuries at the hands of Pakistan when in Marka-e-Haq and Operation Bunyan-e-Mursoos. Indian frustration, India is actually feeling it hot, and India is actually in hot water when India is trying to deviate its attention of its people, and again creating some sort of plea for any sort of future misadventure. India's power projection and hegemonic dreams are actually shattered, and they are collecting bits and pieces of it, and unfortunately still India is not learning what happened, and this overall aspect is actually has a deep effect on India's already shattered psychology. India has to rectify its problems internally and look inward rather than having, but India has the psychological issues, the mental issues, they have the diplomatic issues, they have hypocritic policies, then of course the extremist and terrorist mindset of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, which they are actually following, and the fake media and the covert military, no doubt about that. But this whole is actually making India another drama, another film, what they are very fond of, and most of the time they are doing it, but whole of the world is actually witnessing what India is doing, and India is doing every step wrong, and they are at the wrong side of history. They have to correct themselves if they want to have a corrected path, and that is only the peace, stability, development and prosperity in the region, and India has to join hand with the regional powers, as recently the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi visited Delhi, and that might be the same agenda to ask India to abandon all the policies of terrorism, extremism and hegemonic designs within the region, rather come forward to have peace and stability. But Pakistan has to be extremely vigilant about Indian intentions, the jingoistic designs and the hegemonic approach, because Pakistan has to prepare all the time to defend its motherland and its territory, and we all have to be vigilant on that account as a nation. We are united against any threat, any aggression, as we have actually demonstrated during Marka-e-Haq and Operation Bunyan-e-Mursoos. And if India ever think about to attack Pakistan or to have any sort of misadventure, Pakistan will deal in the same way, either with iron hands. This is all from today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz.